Okay, so today we're talking about the greatest common factor, which a lot of times gets really confused with the least common multiple. Really, the word that we want to focus on is factor or multiple. A factor is something that makes up a larger number or that can be combined with another number to make that number. A multiple has the word multiply right in there. So if we're looking at greatest common factor, we'll take two numbers. Let's do easy ones. So let's say 4 and 6. The question that I have is, what are the factors of those numbers? Not what can those numbers become, what do they break down into? Well, I might make a factor rainbow. So for 4, I have 1 and 4 and 2. Those are the only three that I have. Those are my factors of 4. 1 times 4, 2 times 2. With 6, similarly, I have 1 and 6, 2 and 3. 1, 2, 3, and 6. Those are my factors. Now that I've written them all out, greatest common factor is just as easy as looking to see what they have in common. 2. What's the greatest common factor? So if I were to make a harder one, take 100 and I take 35. I'm going to do this exact same thing. It says list the factors and then circle the greatest common factors. So for 100, I have 1, I have 100, I have 2 and 50, I have 4 and 25, I have 5 and 20, and I have 10. 10 and 10. 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, 20, 25, 50. There's a mistake right there. Let me go ahead and fix that one. 25 and 50. Okay, so for 35, I'm going to do the same thing. 1 times 35. And I have, well, let's see, well, I can't have 3, so I have 5. There's 5 and 7. I guess that's it. I'm all done, right? 1 times 35, 5 times 7. So now I go through, and obviously, I like to start at this end, but it's pretty clear to me what our greatest common factor is. 35 is not a factor of 100. 7 is not a factor of 100, but 5 is. So let's look at one more. 22. We have 1 and 22, 2 and 11, and I'm done. With 55, I have 1 and 55, 5 and 11, and I'm done. So now that I have all of my factors, and that factor rainbow we talked about before looks like that. It's not as clean, but when you have a big section like there, what two numbers multiply together, those are the factors. Two numbers multiply together to make that larger number. In this case, I see that 11 is the greatest common factor. Oh, my handwriting is getting sloppy. 11 is the greatest common factor of 22 and 55. I see that 5 is the greatest common factor of 135. And I start to see patterns too. So I know like my factors of 11 are pretty simple. It's 1 and 11. Obviously between 11 and 44, greatest common factor would be 11 itself. Between 40 and 25, I notice that they both end in a 0 or a 5, which means that they both have 5 as a factor. So I know that 5 times 8 is 40, and I know that 5 times 5 is 25. 5 has to be my greatest common factor. So you can find those little clues as you're working through these. Again, greatest common factor, not to be confused with least common multiple. Greatest common factor. What numbers can be multiplied together to make that larger number? Those are your factors.